Typically, I don't talk to you guys mainly about things that happen in my life or events that happen in my, community. And yesterday, I'm pretty sure all of you know, there was a shooting in Maryland, Annapolis, Maryland to be exact, on the Capital Gazette, which is a locally ran newspaper which covers things like Annapolis sports or things that happen in the state. And it's not really a politicized news media. It's not known as something like Fox News or CNN. So there was a shooting there and 5 people were dead. And I personally knew one of the victims, and his name is John McNamara. He was pretty much an overall amazing guy. He was extremely nice. He, in fact, wrote an article about me and the YouTube channel, and it was on the front page of my local newspaper. A bunch of my friends had texted me saying, your face is on the front of the newspaper. And it was something that was pretty important and one of my higher points in my life because I was in the newspaper. And he was very, very welcoming. I mean, he was invited into my house. He interviewed me for a couple questions, and he was very nice about it. He told me that I was just like a regular person talking to you and to ignore the voice recorder there, and that he would just write an article. And it was an amazing article. It was pretty long, and I haven't really mentioned it much on this YouTube channel because it was a locally owned paper, and I'll probably put a link to the article in the description below. But overall, the fact that things like this happen so close to me, it's something that I really want to make a note of, because typically I won't mention things that are that important in my life, but this has hit extremely close to home. The shooting was very close to where I go to the mall in Annapolis, and it was something that was way too close to me. I mean, when I saw it in the news, I didn't see anyone had been reported injured. I saw in the news that there was no reported injuries, no reported deaths, and then all of a sudden I see that 5 people had died, and I had no idea who had died. So I didn't really go through the article. I didn't go through the names until my history teacher had texted me giving a screenshot of a tweet with John McNamara's name, and he had said, "Isn't this the guy who interviewed you?" And I was like, "Yeah, that is." And it said he was in critical condition. So at this time, I didn't know that he had passed away. And I went on Twitter, and I looked at the sidebar where it was trending, and I saw that his name was on the trending part of Twitter. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's just because he's in critical condition. And then all of a sudden I found out that he had passed away. And that was extremely unfortunate. I told my parents right away, and it killed my day. I mean, I was extremely sad throughout the entire night. And overall, at first I was a little shocked. I was numb by it because I see things like this on the news media, and then I would never expect someone that I knew personally would be found dead by something like this, especially a shooting in Maryland, of all places, in Annapolis, which is 10 minutes away from me. It was something that was extremely close, way too close to home, and I had to make a note of it. And it's just something that's probably going to affect me for the rest of my life. We see things like Parkland or other things that happen throughout the United States, and we never really expect it to come close to us. I saw the mayor of Annapolis on CNN last night, and I was just thinking, how do we come this close? I mean, it's never been Maryland. It's always been other states, important states like that. And then also the lack of focus on social media threats has become a widespread issue. People ignoring threats and ignoring things that happen and ignoring the warning signs about things that are going to occur possibly in the future. And it's really sad. I mean, people don't take action when they see death threats on the internet because they've become so common. And we've seen so many people get angry at multiple news medias that it seems like it's just numbing, and it's not something that we take offense to. And when we see shootings on the national television, you never really expect it to come close to you. You never really expect it to be this big of an issue. You never really expect to mention your hometown on the national news media, okay? It's something that I didn't really realize. When I'm looking at the victims and I'm hearing their stories, I understand it. I understand their pain. I understand their trouble. But then when it happens to someone like you personally, it changes you. And it changes the way you look at things. When you look at the next school shooting, you have to understand what the families went through. And I hate to say it, but I really think that it won't really hit everyone until it actually happens to them personally. And America's come to a point where we make jokes about things that shouldn't be made fun of, or we take things extremely lightly, just acknowledge this is something that happens casually. I mean, it just says a lot about America. It says a lot about our values, and it's not good for us. And also the issue of gun violence, that's something that really isn't noted by many people, and a lot of people try to bring attention to it or awareness to it, and it really ends up with nothing. We saw Parkland, the March for Our Lives, and no real change happened in our legislative bodies. And I'm not saying that we should push for more gun control because this had nothing to do with it. The case that affected me personally had nothing to do with it. But in the future, when we're looking at things, I mean, threats should be acknowledged. That's something that could have averted this entire situation. Or, looking at people that could possibly do harm, they should be looked at as well. Just looking at the whole thing with gun violence, that's something that also should be prevented in the future. Whether it be, America isn't perfect. America will never be perfect. We are always going to have our faults, but we can also prevent things in the future. And looking at this happening so close to me, obviously this is not going to change much. I mean, we see it time and time again, and unless our congressmen and our senators want to focus on more important issues and bring attention to things like this, and America's really ready to rally behind one viewpoint about this, which we aren't, and we probably won't be for a while. I don't know if America is ready, to be completely honest with you. Seeing things like happen to me personally, yeah, it does impact me, and I do want change to happen, and I want things to be brought attention to, not just in this situation where we see a situation like this, but America has become so divided. We've come to a point where we hate people through the television screen again, and that is not good. Looking at the way that we've become so hateful towards one another, not just journalists, not just the people that are on the media, but to each other, to hating each other because of our viewpoints, and that's not what America should be, and America has become that. So I really just want us to take a step back and acknowledge one another, respect each other's opinions, and I know this probably isn't going to change much, but the mindset that I could be changing is something that's going to be ever valuable, because this would possibly prevent things in the future from happening. And overall, I really do not see why people have become so divided. I understand that you may differ with people's opinions, but hating someone over their opinion is something that's really bad in America. It's something that's extremely prominent. We see it amongst everyone, the left, the right, the middle, and it's not necessarily, it's never the best thing to hate someone just for their opinion, but there are some extremists that I understand why, if they have such radical beliefs and they are extremely hateful towards one another because of their extremely contrasting beliefs. But when we're talking about the left and the right, we're not that much different. We're all American. With 5 people dead and 2 injured, I just ask that you keep them in your prayers. And 5 people lost their son or daughter yesterday, and it's really upsetting. Okay, people lost their sisters, their brothers, and I just knew John McNamara. Other people were family members, and I felt extremely horrible about the entire situation, whereas other people, they may be even closer to them. So just keep them in your prayers or your condolences, offer your condolences to them, and we should just bring awareness to the issue of gun violence. This is probably going to, this whole situation is probably going to be under the rug in a couple of weeks, just knowing the 24-hour news media cycle. But again, it's something that's probably going to change the way I view life for the better. But it's unfortunate that this had to happen for me to get there.